Hello, everyone. First of all, welcome and thank you for being here. We want to be considerate of everybody's time, so we will finally start. And what I want to mention first, besides the thank you, is that we have this wonderful handouts, which we also positioned right on the table, where we also have some refreshments and some cookies. So if you want to, you can free to grab one and also something to drink. And yeah, so as I said before, thank you very much. And we are here today because we have the privilege to have Jeanne Celestine Lakin here, a Rwandan genocide survivor. And the reason why we invited her, besides her wonderful story, is that we are from Phi Theta Kappa. We have something called the Honors in Action program, which is a research-based project that also connects to an action. And we have to come up with a research question. And our this year's topic is Power of Stories. And we chose theme 5, which is representation through stories. So everything that relates to stories is what we want to accomplish and do and showcase the stories. And yeah, we also won the Mellon Foundation Phi Theta Kappa grant. So we got it awarded over $1,000, and that is a great honor. And next up, the Andy.
Hello. This is the pre-questionnaire for the event. If you could please take a moment, scan the QR code, and fill it out. It is how we will be collecting quantitative data, which I always mix up with qualitative data, for our project specifically. So if you could, it would be extremely helpful, and we are very lucky to have all of you here. Andrea, I'm going to give you a moment to fill it out before I ask you to speak. Seeing everyone fill this out makes me very happy. This is effective research in action, and also QR codes make me very nervous. There's so many issues, so the fact that we're all filling it out with no issues is the greatest relief. Oh, and everyone, please, after you're done filling out the QR code, please silence your cell phones. And here comes Andrea. I cannot remember your last name. I am so sorry.
Hello everyone. So before we get this started, I'm going to give you a brief overview of what happened in the Rwandan Genocide. So the Rwandan Genocide happened in 1994, and it was a terrible and very tragic event. Around 800,000 people were killed by the Hutu people, and one of the most significant things about this event is that these massive killings occurred in around 100 days. So today we're very privileged to have a Jeanne Celestine Lakin, who is a Rwandan genocide, and at the time she found herself running away from the people that were trying to kill her and her family. She struggled to protect her younger siblings, her two twin 3-year-old sisters, and protect them from this terrible people. So all of this is explained in her book, and we really encourage you to purchase it or to read it. And so we welcome you, Jeanne Celestine Lakin. Please.
Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. It's so great to be with all of you again. I was, when my friend, who I will talk about, later on, invited me, I was just thinking about just coming back and being part of PTK. And then I started smiling a little bit because I feel over time being invited by PTK, whether it was conferences, whether it was an induction, almost like everything related to PTK. I find myself somewhere being in a room. And I was thinking to myself, maybe I should be adopted. I should be part of your extension family. It just feels that way. So thank you again, PTK, for inviting me, for hosting this event. It is just an honor to be with you here alongside College-Tomball. I work on North Harris campus, but as we know, we are Lone Star College. We are one Lone Star College. I've been at Lone Star College for about almost 7 years next year. I just can't believe that it's been that, moving so fast, and we are here today. But I also want to thank my friend, Professor Dupree, for having me, for just being a great friend. When I met her 2018, I remember saying to myself, she's going to be my best friend, but she doesn't know. And when that happened, I just saw her embodiment of humanity. I saw how she'll be juggling, revising a student essay, and creating academic plan for another student, and also looking at a resume for another student. But all of that because of her ability, her love for students, to see other people achieve their goals. I was attracted to that type of personality. So your kindness and your humanity, it's just so beautiful. So thank you. I see my friend there, Juanita, as well. She snuck up on me. I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I've had, and I'm going to share with you video, pictures in the back before I talk about the genocide. And I know every time I'm in a room with PTK students, I seriously feel like I'm challenged to be better, to do better, to do more. And that's because I know you guys, your resiliency, your hard work ethic, the way you lead, the way you serve the community is something that is very inspiring. So thank you for the hard work, and I want everybody to give you a round of applause for all the work you put in to make this world a better place. Thank you. So the power of storytelling. I've been all over the world. I feel like international here. I've been throughout all kinds of states and doing nothing but sharing stories. But a lot of times I focus on the humanity, because I survived the genocide. As you've heard, the genocide was in 100 days. So I'm going to take you back to the beginning of the genocide. And I won't tell you all about the genocide itself, because I want you to read a book and support us in supporting orphans that we support when you buy the book. But from the beginning of the genocide, I was a 9-year-old girl living with my parents, mom and dad. We had everything a child could have dreamed of. We have 5 maids at home. My parents were business people. And so as a child, I felt like I had everything I needed in order to succeed. Now, the genocide of 1994, and when I tell students that I did survive a genocide, they kind of look at me a little bit funny, because they expect somebody to be a little bit older to survive a genocide. But again, being a 9-year-old, don't do the math, right? Being a 9-year-old, it really was, for me, was a positive thing, but it was also a negative thing, because I was too young to see all of that chaos and trying to wrap my mind around what was happening in the country, but young enough to really figure out how to shape what has happened to me. The choice that I had to make to be who I am today. I was tasked to go through school, elementary school. I speak 5 languages, so I came to United States when I was 14. I was in ESL classes, but I wanted to shape the future that I wanted to have. The interpretation of the pain that I had, to take that pain and turn it into a purpose. And that was a juggle, obviously, right? For anybody who's confused about their purpose in the room, what you need to do, me too. I didn't know exactly how I will use this experience that surviving the genocide itself, and I'll go into the survival part of the story later on, but I just didn't know how to use that pain for purpose. And I was always looking to ways to use that pain for purpose, right? Not only for me, but for the greater world, the humanity. And you're going to hear me say humanity over and over again, because once you realize that you survived such a massive experience, there is a reason why you survive. And you have to create an impact that is bigger than just you and your family. And so the genocide in 1994, it was carefully planned. It was one of the fastest killing campaign in our modern history. As you mentioned, in 100 days, just the course of 100 days, over 1 million people perished. And you might ask yourself this question, how so? How could this be possible? It was nothing but propaganda campaigns. The leaders of the nation, the Hutu leaders, went on the phones, went on the radios, they printed in the newspaper. How many of you have heard about the Holocaust, the Jewish? Almost everyone in the room. So in Rwanda, during the Holocaust, the Jewish people were referred to as rats. In Rwanda, we were referred to as the cockroaches, the snakes, everything except humans. And once you identify a person as the other, it's easy to actually get rid of them, to kill them, because you no longer see the humanity. You no longer see them as humans. And that's why I encourage everybody to love your neighbors, to walk across the aisle and shake hands with someone who do not dress like you do, who do not worship like you do, because there's so much that we have in common than what divides us, what society puts out there to be the differences. At the end of the day, we all have a beating heart in our chest, blood through our vessels and arteries. So we have so much in common. But in Rwanda, they used the propaganda campaign to really say that we're no longer part of the human family, but we are just these other things. Printed in the newspapers, there were meetings that Tutsi families, like my parents, were not part of. They couldn't go into those meetings coming into the genocide. Tutsis were excluded because it was basically the planning of the genocide. And 1994 was actually not the first genocide Rwanda had. There were multiple other genocides. But 1994 was one of the largest one where more people died. Innocent people, men, women, and children. So you might wonder, how did I survive such chaos? And how am I here? And how do I have a smile on my face? And I'm not faking this. This is my daily, that's me. We'll talk more about that. I remember on April 7th, my parents of 1994, my dad walks into the house. And my father was 6'7" tall. And in his presence, I felt protected. I mean, not only his size, I felt like, okay, daddy's got this. Even though there's like a planning of the genocide, my dad is going to take care of us as children. My parents did a lot of work in the community. They educated, children. We had extended families that were just not relative families. So we thought those people will be able to protect us, even though that they're coming from different ethnicity, because of all the work that they poured into the community. But on April 7th, my father walks into the house. He's basically shaken. And I've never seen my father look anywhere like he didn't have a plan. And that, to me as a child, I thought, this is bad. Something awful is about to happen. If my parents cannot protect us, this is really bad. And so I started losing the faith that if the parents can't figure it out, we're about to die. My mom and dad, they sat in our living room, had a little chit-chat quickly. but you could tell they're very nervous. And for the first time, I saw my father cry, break down and cry. And that to me again kind of sort of like sent the message that they don't have a plan. So of my faith, I knew. I was like, I'm going to have to rely on faith. We're going to talk about faith later on. Hopefully somebody reminded me if I forget. I'm going to lean on faith if I cannot rely on the parents, because they too cannot figure out that there's a genocide with massive. My dad had already seen children being slaughtered in the streets. That's why he was actually crying, because he also envisioned that his own children, 10 of us, could be potentially killed just like the rest of the kids that he's seen on the streets, just because they were Tutsis. So they quickly made a plan, divided us in groups of 3. So I'm from a family of 10. There was 10 of us in the house that day. We had a 3-week-old little brother who was just born. If you read the book, I helped mom deliver that baby as a 9-year-old. Very proud. But then as they divided us in group of 3, I have a twin sister, Jeanette, very tall than I am. And she had to take the younger brother, the baby ones. And then I was in charge of the twins, who were 3-year-olds, twin sisters, Teddy and Teta. And up to this day, I'm grateful that I actually took Teddy and Teta, because there were many times in the genocide I thought, this is way too much pain for me to bear. Maybe it would be easy if I actually commit suicide. But every time I looked in the eyes of those young children, the twins, there was something that told me that I had to protect them. It wasn't about me, that I had to protect them. So as they thank me for saving their lives, I'm actually grateful that they saved my life, because they gave me a purpose. And that's that part of like finding a purpose. They gave me the purpose to fight through the genocide, to live, to continue. No matter how tough it was, I thought I am going to see the best way to protect these 3-year-old twin sisters. And so in the middle of the genocide, we left the home. My older brother took 2 brothers as well. And we were trusted to stay with our family members, especially my aunt, who was married to a Hutu. So there was intermarriage, where the Tutsis could marry the Hutus, right? My aunt was married to a Hutu. We get to her home and she said, unfortunately, we can't keep you here. So for more than 2.5 months, we were in the bushes. We survived in the bushes. Anybody want to guess what we were eating? Yep, she's right. Who wants to have dinner? Some grass tonight for dinner. You want to eat some grass? Or you want to give me the next thing? Another thing that we ate? A lot of people come up with that. No bugs. We ate grass, we ate plant, we ate berries. When you find berries in the middle of the genocide, it was like a miracle. That was a good meal. We ate corns, the raw corn. So for days, we ate what we can find. No animals, though. I can't trust the animals. But again, God provided, even eating grass. Now, it was tough to tell the twin sisters, 3-year-olds, to munch on grass. I was like, this is your meal. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But they ate grass. We tried different plants, different seeds. The fact that I am alive and standing is a miracle. Over 70% of the Tutsis in the country perished. 70%. So you have a miracle standing here, 30% who survived. But we lived in the bushes. We drank rain water from the ponds. And there was so much blood in the rivers because of like how many people that were killed. And you think like, wow, it was like to see it with your own eyes. This was real. This was, you see these things in the movie and you go, oh, how many of you have watched Hotel of Rwanda? Not very many people, yeah. That was nothing compared to what was happening on the ground. Obviously, they couldn't put it on the screen because Hollywood. They had to make sure that people can watch, at least kind of get a glimpse of what was happening in Rwanda. And so, kind of quickly, is that time right? No, it's not right. And I don't have my glasses on, so thank you. I was like, it looks like 10 p.m. About to take a nap here. So surviving the genocide. In the middle of the genocide, we will go from, you see the title of the book, A Voice in the Darkness. Some people will ask, why did you title the book A Voice in the Darkness? Living in the bushes, I kept hearing this voice that says, move from this place, go to this other bush. Move from this swamp, go to the other place. That's how I survived. And I learned to trust that voice. Walk in front of these people with machetes and clubs, with blood stained, dripping off their machetes and clubs, and hold your head high. That's the voice. And I trusted the voice, and I went. I mean, imagine shaking hands with someone who has a machete in their hands, blood all over their bodies, but you've been instructed to go, act as if nothing's happening. That was the voice. So a voice in the darkness. In the middle of the genocide, I watched one of the worst tragedy. My father was my best friend. I know I didn't talk too much about him in the beginning. My father was my hero. My father was not only my best friend, he was a protector. And in the middle of the genocide, I hear these people screaming on the other side. Rwanda has like mountains. If you haven't seen pictures, please look up Rwandan's hills. It's just beautiful. And so I'm watching in the middle of this place where we're hiding, and I hear these people screaming, Dore nyamuremure, dore nyamuremure, which translates into, there is the tall guy, there is the tall man, and go and attack. For a minute, I didn't know that was my dad. I had no idea. But I'm looking at this person and going, like, imagine if you're on the other side, and I'm going, come on, stoop down, just to kind of go a little lower, because he was taller than the corns and sorghum. Like, if I can see you, they see you. I'm almost like speaking to this person as if that person can hear me. But the closer he got, I realized that was my dad. And right there, with machetes and clubs, they just slaughtered his body in the streets. And then, I mean, for me, that was too much to bear, too much to take on. And then later on, I saw my mother with our 3-week-old little brother. I witnessed their dead body as well. Remember, in the middle of the genocide, my uncle comes up and tells me he was one of my uncle. Actually, before I get to the uncle's home, there was a family that we knew, that we trusted so much, they were from the Hutu family. And again, because they did so much work in the community, so much of loving the community despite, the differences, right? We knew of this man, and I thought, you know what? It's been such a long time since we've been in the bushes, in the swamps. Let's go beg this guy. In Rwanda in April, it rains so much. It was so rainy that day. I was like, I just need a warm meal. And I knocked on this guy's door. He let us in. He fed us that day. But my uncle, my dad's older brother, walks into this home. He was also shaken like my dad. And as he's shaking, he gives me a hug. My uncle was not the kind that hugs people. He'll give you a hi and bye. And this time I'm like, Uncle, what's going on? He walks away, comes back and gives me another big bear hug. I'm like, this guy's like nuts. What's going on with him? And as I'm thinking, he probably seen something, I said, just tell me. And then he finally did. He said, I've seen your mother's dead body, and this is the location where she is. And if you want to save your little brother, go there. He might be alive. But I want to kind of fast forward this story. The little baby, finally found my mom, and the little baby had been butchered in pieces as well. That part of the story I share because I want you to understand that in the genocide, nobody was spared. Even a 3-week-old little baby will be slaughtered, all because the intentions was to wipe out entire ethnic group. So again, look around you, look around your neighbors here, and see nothing but humanity. We all have so much in common than just the color of our skin. We have so much in common than, the color of our hair, the clothes we wear, the whatever it might be. There's so much to a human than just what the appearance of outside. Just because we had a long nose and long limbs and were classified by Belgians as the Tutsis, for me as a child, it never made sense. Up to today, it doesn't make sense that people would die because of the way they were created. So I want to do something really quick because it looks like and I think it's like paying attention. Like I see everybody's kind of leaning forward, which is great. I want to do something a little bit different. I want anybody who has lost, if you have lost a loved one, to please stand. Almost entire room. If you have experienced a tragedy of any kind or a hardship, if you're able, if you can raise your hand. Please stand. A tragedy, hardship. If you have somebody in your family who has had or has a mental illness or challenge, please stand. If you know anyone in your family or a friend, could be a friend, who has had to deal with the loss of any kind, any loss. So look around the room. When I share, please have a seat. Thank you. When I share this part of, I want you to see that our diversity has no boundaries. Hardships crosses boundaries. Every one of us have walked, and some of us might be walking through something, right? So because we know that pain is going to come, it's part of life, unfortunately. But the key is, how do you pivot? How do you just let your lived experience, how do you move from that pain that you have experienced to use it for purpose? But also, how do you let it not define you? Because a lot of times people go, I went through this and this is who I am. You are not what happened to you. You are not your story. Even though that I'm telling a story, I'm not my story. This is my lived experience. And I'm using it to empower. I'm using it to encourage. I'm using it to hopefully make a difference. Whether it's on a national level where I'm fighting with politicians. Because now I've been Congress House. I've been invited to speak in multiple, hearings, conferences on human rights issues. But how do you move from your lived experience, that life that came and just kind of ripped everything under your feet, to just really say, I'm alive and I'm living? That's what I want you to think about today. That's the story, because every single one of you in this room has a story. We all have stories. Some stories are heavier than others, but every single person has a story to tell. Now, if you want to write about your story, you can always reach out to me, right? But I also want to share with you really quick, after the genocide, in the middle of the genocide, rape was used as a weapon of war in Rwanda, which is something that I speak on because I'm also a chair of human trafficking, anti-human trafficking, where we oversee 57 countries. Rape was used as a weapon of war, something we continue to see in Ukraine right now, something we saw in Israel in October 7th, what we saw in Gaza at this moment. So rape is really used a lot of times as a weapon, and unfortunately, women and children suffer the most when that happens. And many women and children get trafficked through the through wars zones. So for those of you who have interest in serving in human rights, you can also reach out to me. I will give you some connections. But in Rwanda, similar. UN documented that about 500,000 women and girls were raped in the genocide. And that's a very high number. And because rape comes with shame and stigma, many people, many survivors, many victims do not come forward to talk about those inhumane against humanity, because there's a lot of lack of resources. One of the things I realized, I was also trafficked in 1994 as a child, as a 9-year-old, trafficked into a different country. And my trafficker, you learn that he wanted to sell me. He said, "Oh, she's beautiful. You could give me this amount of money, this many cows, this many goats, this many things." And they believed that I was actually the one and only Tutsi left in the country. So guess what? I was a commodity. I was worth whatever price that he wanted to put on me. That's whoever will buy me from him will have to pay that price. So I went from being a human being to being an object that was worth some money, some cows, some resources. There's no price tag on a human being. I was just a child. And so there was, of course, I was raped as a child. And that's why I speak very, I was telling you about traveling back to Europe, because now we're counseling women who have gone through such inhumane acts, providing resources, putting traffickers, basically providing policies and advocating for policies that will put away those traffickers. Now, many people might like AI, ChatGPT, and all of the other stuff that is coming up. Now, the traffickers are using there's so many ways to traffic humans. And unfortunately, here in Texas, we are the hub for human trafficking. There's a lot of money that is being put into, the traffickers are pouring into trafficking people. There are 3 states that are high in human trafficking, and unfortunately, Texas is one of them, so it could be Florida is another, and California. And again, I share that part of this story to say there's so much work that needs to be done. There's so many ways, especially our PTK members who love to serve the community. There's so many involvement you could be involved in to really make an impact in the world. Being raped as a child, I started speaking up for girls, for women, for children. I was testifying at the Congress last year, where I was invited to speak on children being sold into human trafficking. Who doesn't want to protect children? Nobody. We all want to protect the children. So there's so much that's been done. And again, I've used my lived experience to say that there's so much more work that needs to be done, that as a community, as a society, we could do so much more. I want to share some pictures really quick. Friend, give me a timer. Oh, just kidding. She keeps me on track, y'all. I'm going to speak through this. So there's actually go back to the books. I'm trying to feed some kids for Christmas. Please buy a book. It's $20. Um, and then here, I had the privilege of a few years ago, President Bush emailed me and said, "I want to have a meeting with you and your husband." I said, "Me? President Bush, former president." And I thought it was a scam, so I was about to take this email and just put it in junk mail. And my husband, who worked at the same college, he walks in and he said, "Honey, no, this is real. This is really President Bush. He wants to have a meeting with you." And he was basically highlighting the American immigrants, some of us who are immigrants who are doing work in the community, some of us who have done kind of trying to make an impact in the best way we can. Now, making an impact doesn't mean you have to be on a world stage. You can make an impact at home, in your community, in your school, as our PTK members are doing. But he painted these portraits of me, and there he is. We're having a conversation here with one of the survivors that he painted as well, who lives in Dallas. And again, as I shared last, I've done a lot of like global work, international work. Here I was in Vienna, Vienna migration, speaking on when people survive, whether it's a genocide or a war, whether they survive human trafficking, there's a term that they use as victims. And people who are doing work in the community who have done the work on, on ourselves, I wanted to change the narrative that we're no longer victims. We are survival leaders, because we are working on policies to be changed on behalf of those who potentially, unfortunately, who might be victimized. And so, and then here I was in New York speaking again on education I'm a big believer on education for children, women, and men. And here we go. I've met a lot of like world leaders. If you can see here, there's Trisha Mays. We're working on here in New York again on ways to create policies that supports people who have been trafficked. Believe it or not, billions of people in slavery right now who have been basically trafficked, whether it's a sexual exploitation, whether it's a labor exploitation. There's so much trafficking that is happening. Again, here I wasn't, testifying at Congress. Good friend of mine now who, y'all remember this guy? Did anybody watch the movie? I forgot that movie. It's a new movie that's, what was it? The Sound of Freedom. Check it out. It's a good one. And also for some of you who have watched Hotel of Rwanda, check out the movie. So he was testifying with me on behalf of the children. For some of you who have watched Hotel of Rwanda, I'm encouraging you to watch Shake Hands with the Devil. It's another good one. And that's my sweet boy. Isn't he so cute? Thank you. And I also want to share really quickly. You might ask yourself, how do I survive a genocide and be to this level? And I want to share the few tips that helped me. Surviving a genocide was one thing. It was one task. But what was important was forgiveness. There's some of you who have gone through life and people have done you wrong. People have said things about you. People have just wronged you. And those people are holding you. You're losing your sleep over it, of what's been done to you, because you have not forgiven. So I want to define really forgiveness, at least for me. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself so you can live your purpose life. Because a lot of times I know and I have met people who have not forgiven the people who are dead. So a dead person is holding you hostage. They died. They don't care whether you're suffering. They don't care whether you're turning and twisting in the middle of the night. So forgiveness was a conversation I had to have with God. I remember God telling me, forgive them. Forgive the rape. Forgive the fact that they killed your family. Just forgive them. And I'm like, God, you saying it like it's easy. It's not easy. Forgiveness is the hardest thing that you could do, but it is the best gift you can give yourself. And when you forgive, you're not saying what's done to you is okay. No. Sometimes you can forgive somebody but not have to go have a cup of coffee with them. No. That's not reconciliation. Doesn't mean you have to be buddy buddies. But you just address that, yes, I acknowledge what has happened to me, what they've done to me, but I'm choosing to live a joyful life every single day. When I was able to forgive, I honestly felt, because I was held, I lived in darkness for so many years. And when I hit rock bottom, so don't think I woke up like this. No, there's a saying like I woke up like this. No, I couldn't feel the sun on my skin. I was depressed. PTSD was real. I had anxiety. I would get so angry that there was nothing that would make me laugh. But once I forgave, I honestly felt this joy. I felt like there was all this possibility that I could reach and do anything that I wanted to do, because now my mind was clear enough to think through. I was able to sit in a classroom and be able to learn, because I felt like when I was held by this anger, resentment, there was no space for more. So forgiveness, if you can. If you want to pray about it, do it. Am I running out of time? Sorry. Okay, thank you. So forgiveness was one for me. The other thing is about having hope. The minute you lose hope, life is done right there. So find a way. Hope and gratitude is two things that I really think that they go hand in hand. Once you see, try to find a light at the end of the tunnel. Every day, look for something that is brighter. If you have to pat yourself in the back and say, you know what, I showed up to school today. I was talking to one of my students this morning and I said, you were depressed, couldn't get out of bed, but you showed up today. Pat yourself in the back. Be hopeful. Have that gratitude attitude, right? Be grateful for simple things. I make myself a cup of coffee in the morning and I'm driving to work and I'm joyful. It sounds simple, but that gratefulness, that gratitude, it also gives you another opening of joyful things that are just simple things that are happening in your life. And the last thing, really serve. Serve others. Because you find that as you serve, you're not the one, the people that you're serving they are not the beneficiary. We actually are. When you do something for someone else, you might benefit. You might feel that joy. You might feel the impact that you made in somebody else's life. And that's a good drive. So if nothing else, really serve the community and love your neighbors. My little man you see there, I force him. I'm like, you go shake hands with that kid over there. He's loving. He's kind. And so that's easy for him. Again, thank you so much. If anybody has any questions, please ask away. If I do have more time, just kidding. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So in a few moments, you'll probably have some questions. I'm going to share just a couple quick things that I think are important, and of course, they've got some more to share. But she wants to answer your questions, so please do ask. I want you to hear that when I first met Jeanne, she was just a kind-hearted person like you hear about, and I asked her about reading her book, and she wouldn't let me pay for it. And I read the book, and I love to read, but I'm not a really fast reader. I read it in a day. I went to her crying the next day. It wasn't even a full day because I got it from her at work. The book is such a powerful story. she skimmed over the fact that all of that money goes to 1 Million Bones, which is 1 million bones, 1 million orphans. There's a 1 Million Bones organization too, but 1 million orphans to help them have their needs met. So if you can afford a book, that would be really wonderful. She's going to hit me for saying too much about it. If you don't have the money with you today, she's going to leave some books, and you can get it from Deirdre or myself, and we'll be happy to help you out with that. The other thing you need to know is we know that statistically 1 in 3 females and 1 in 4 to 6 males are sexually abused every year in the United States, and that's only the ones that come forward. There's resources to help you. We have communities and schools on this campus. We have licensed counselor that's on this campus. You can come to me. I'll get you to the resources that you need. There's a handout that Phi Theta Kappa put together, and it's got some really great resources for sexual trafficking or for sexual abuse. Jeanne has a lot of training and a gift. We want you to know that there's support, and you did nothing wrong if that happened to you. That's usually one of the greatest reasons people don't come forward. You did nothing wrong. And the statute of limitations has been extended. It used to be 10 years past your 18th birthday. I was very involved with Phi Theta Kappa because of some things that happened to me and my family personally, and now it's 10 years past. One day it will be abolished, but know that there's things that you can do. And even if you don't want to press charges, you can still have healing, and it's through forgiveness. So with that said, we're going to let her answer any questions right after they say something.
Yes. So this is the same set of questions that we had you answer at the top of this event. If you could scan the QR code again or enter the link if your mobile device cannot scan QR codes, and just fill out the information quickly so that we can collect some more data.
No questions?
What was the catalyst that allowed you to forgive, and what was that process like?
That's a very, very good question. Did you hear that question? No. It said, what was the catalyst, and what was that forgiveness process like? Really, the forgiveness part, I was convicted by God. When God said forgive him, I was like, there's not a single bone in this body. And I know there's like, how many bones in the body? Any biologists here, scientists in the room? Too many bones in the in the body. I said, there's nothing in me that can actually forgive what happened to me. But I said, God, if you want me to forgive, empower me to. And I'm being real this time, because I know I'm speaking directly. I said, give me the strength that I don't have to be able to do this. And that was the process. Because when he said, forgive him, I was like, how? How do you do that? How do you forgive rape? How do you forgive somebody who just comes and butchered your parents right there? The fact, what I didn't share with you, I was a homeless kid. Come from having parents, a village of community that loved me, that empowered me, that protected me, to now being on the streets, fending for myself as a 10-year-old. No orphanages will have me because I was too old. I was a 10-year-old, and the orphanages were too, they were at the max capacity. So there was that bitterness, and I think that's what God wanted for me to get rid of, so that way I can actually tap into his purpose, his plan for my life. That's really what that process was like. And once I really was able to forgive, I felt like even though that I was still orphan and a kid, I felt like I could somehow make an impact of what God has, created me for. That's a very good question. Yes.
I just wanted to know what happened to the twins. Where are they now?
Good question. So the one of the twins actually lives with me. Her name is Teta, which means like she's spoiled. She's like my baby girl. Now, even if she's like 100 years old, I'm always gonna feel like she's my baby. Yeah, she's with me. Her twin sister, Teresa, just got married, I think last year, and she has a beautiful baby girl. So I'm an auntie, and they're doing really well. They They worked so hard. The one who is with us, she works at Lone Star College in North Harris. Some of you who are taking classes at North Harris in social and behavior science, she builds your classes. So she's doing really well, and she's just such a gentle, kind human being. But I'm so grateful. One of the things people ask them, I have been bringing her on the road with me to do some speaking engagements. But one of the questions people ask her is, do you remember the genocide? She's like, no, don't remember anything about it. But they lived in orphanage homes. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping the kiddos in orphanage homes, 1 million orphans, because that experience, take it this way. If you were a child who survived the genocide, anybody could have came and scooped you up and be your parent. I mean, anybody could have picked me up and say, I'm going to take care of this girl. There was no system back then that would actually vet the families and make sure that these are not pedophiles. So many children were abused because there was no structure in place to really see that this is a good family, that will be a good foster parents. And so I came to US with a foster family and was also abused through that. But again, I'm not letting that past pain, keep me, in a cave or keep me in this little box. I refuse to let that past just kind of define who I am. I know who I am. Good question. Yes.
Who helped you along the way to get to that orphanage? Because you were so young. Who guided you?
So I actually, again, I was as they were negotiating how much money that I was worth in another country, Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. A voice spoke to me and said, "Get up and go." I was like, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to listen and just go. I woke up, bless you. I woke up in the middle of the night because I don't know, the plan, I think the plan was like, this person is going to pay up and then he's going to come and get me. It was actually to sell me into marriage as a 10-year-old. And so I got up in the middle of the night and I started walking. I walked into the same place multiple times. I'm like, dang it, I was here. I started marking on trees and go, oh, I was in this place. And somehow I didn't know south, north. I had no idea. But somehow I walked back into Rwanda. And I went to the orphanage home. And the only reason why I went to the orphanage home, I just knew my mom used to take us to my mom used to take us to orphanage home to actually provide clothes for orphans. And so I went to the same orphanage to see if any of my siblings had survived. Because the twins were taken away from me at one point in the genocide. And when I got there, one of the biggest miracle, many of my siblings, apart from the little one who got killed with my mom, everybody else were alive. So as you read the book, there's like the part of it that is phenomenal, that there's a happy ending in the book. So yeah, I went to the orphanage home and the priest and looked at me and said, "How old are you?" I was so excited to say I was 10. And the minute I said 10, he said, "You're too old." So I ended up on the streets. And my sister, Jeanette, my twin sister, she found me a job when I was 10 years old. Only a 10-year-old want a job full-time? Yeah, my son is 8, and I'm like, you go get yourself a job. I was a maid. So yeah, I cooked, I cleaned, I washed, I did it all. So today, no job is beneath me. I've been trained.
Despite everything that's happened, do you miss your father, your mother, and your little brother?
Absolutely, every single day. Every single day. I know they're in a better place, though. That's for sure. Yeah, I miss my parents. And one of the picture you saw there with President Bush, I was in Dallas, and we're having a conversation to empower young people, young professionals. And he asked me a question, which sort of like kind of caught me off guard. He said there was a series of questions. He wanted to interview us, me and the other lady, and he said, "What would you do if the man who raped you walked into this room?" And I said to him, my response was, I will go back to the same source. And it really was like an unplanned question because I just didn't know how to respond, how I would respond. I said, I will go back to the same source of asking God to give me the power, give me the strength to forgive the same way that I forgave. So I answered that question this way because, like you just asked, there are moments where I am running, trying to do some exercise, and it's hard. And I feel like there's that voice of my father saying, you can do it, baby girl. And that, instead of being sad, I feel like that there's joy, right? And I miss those moments where when I had my son, another example is like when I was having my son, Semi, he was high-risk pregnancy. And I was like, man, if my mother was in this room, if she was there, she would tell me what to do because this is my first child. But so those are moments where I'm like, I miss my parents. But also those feelings can bring up not so good feeling about the people who have taken their lives so quickly. And so when that comes up, because when I was like, oh, I wish my mother was here, there was anger attached to it. And I had to go back and say, you know what? No, I have forgiven these people. I'm going to have this beautiful son. We're going to be just fine. So there's a moment or celebration, Christmas time, like Thanksgiving, family time. I'm like, it's just us. Absolutely. So everybody stood up when I said anybody who has lost a loved one. So you know how it is. It's painful. But imagine one thing. The people you've lost, that you loved, what would they want you to be feeling in that moment when they're not there? To feel joy, to feel happiness, to see you succeeding and doing things that you want to do. Not be stuck in the pain because they're no longer there. Right? They want to celebrate you while you're here. They want you to live a joyful life because you're here and do the best you can. Right? It's really like it's that reality. And I know it's hard. I know there's the steps, and we have to make that choice. When I said forgiveness is a choice, but also the way we define, how we define what happened to us, the interpretation of what happened to us, it's up to us. We can either stay in the victim mentality for the rest of our lives, or we can pivot away from that pain and do greater things in life. And I hope it makes sense for young people. We cannot stay stuck. We have to find a way. We have to pivot. We have to look kind of, even if there's a little tiny light at the end of the tunnel, to focus on that, because that's what moves us to do things. I remember when I was young, sitting in a classroom, not understanding English. So if I'm butchering English, it's my number 5 language. I used to get a little pass and go, English, me no speaking. If I didn't do my homework, obviously. But I remember sitting in a classroom going like, how is it possible that I will be able to learn the language, be able to do the things that I want to do? Because I envision myself being an advocate in life, advocating for human rights. So for you young people, one of the things that I would challenge you to do, start dreaming. It's never too late. If you're older like me, continue to dream, because your dream somehow, you find yourself doing the things you started dreaming a long time ago. Advocating for human rights was something my father used to say when I was younger, that if you want to be invited to the table, if you want to be part of a change somehow in the world, he thought I was going to be a lawyer or a doctor. I'm none of those. My husband just graduated from law school, so I get a credit for helping him out. I pay the bills. But he used to say, if you really want to be invited to the table, to be part of any policy changes, you have to be educated. And so for me, education, I mean, it was not negotiable. I had to learn this English. I had to work hard. You know, the assignments that takes you maybe 30 minutes, it would take me 4 hours because I had to have a dictionary trying to understand those English words. But I worked so hard with the vision in my mind that I was going to somehow, somewhere, start advocating for these babies, the human rights, the most vulnerable among all of us. I envisioned that from the beginning before I even tapped into middle school, high school, college, or master's degree. So start envisioning. If you haven't already, if there's something that is burning in your heart that you want to do, if there's an impact that you want to make in the world, you are in good hands. There's so many mentors that you have. There's so many people who want to pour into you. There's so many people who want to guide you. But just don't be afraid to ask. Ask people around you. Find friends who are doing things that you want to do and ask them to guide you. Sometimes you might get there and go like, oh, never mind, that's not what I wanted to sign up for, and that's okay. But really seek for mentorship. If it's a business, nowadays my students come up to me and go like, I just want to be a businesswoman. Well, find a businesswoman, a man who can show you what they've done in the past. I have many leaders right now who just, that I call and go, okay, I'm about to show up. There's 2,500 people on stage and I'm about to speak and I am nervous and I don't know these policies. Give me the key points that I have to give because they've been there. And guess what they do? They create time to give me those points. About a month ago, I was in Poland speaking at the Human Dimension, a room full of people, and these are policymakers. And I'm like, every word that comes out of my mouth better be meaningful because these politicians, one, they will check out quickly. And so I ask guidance to those people who have been in the room, who have been dealing with the politicians, who have been dealing with lawmakers. How do I be effective in crafting and again, I traveled to Poland for, 16 hours, 17 hours. And I want to make sure that I'm giving a 70 minutes presentation in front of all these people. I wanted to make sure that it really registers in their hearts. And I couldn't, obviously I've been doing this for such a long time. I knew I could do it, but I needed the people who have done it in the past. They knew what's effective because they've been in those rooms. They know how to negotiate with politicians more than I could. So find those people who are willing to guide you, to pour into you. Explore things. It doesn't have to be one thing. It could be multiple things. But once you start, kind of juggling too much, that also becomes confusing. So yeah, thank you.
Is there one last question? Last question. Anybody?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Wait, 1 second, please. 1 second, please. First of all, that is from us. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And can I give you that's I really admire your strength and thank you for being here and sharing your story. And I really appreciate that you do the work you do. So thank you very we all appreciate it.
So if you all want to purchase a book, there's going to be right up here. She'll be ready to sign that.